If everyone could take a moment just to silence their cell phones. We have a sign-up table outside where you pass through. If you decide you want to speak on an item tonight, please make your way back to the sign-up table and sign up unless you've done so already. There are parking passes if you parked in the Civic Center garage, so be sure to get one of those so you don't have to pay for parking. We also want to thank the Asheville tourists who brought over their limo golf cart tonight because the Civic Center parking deck elevator is down right now. So if anybody needs help making their way out of the parking deck, you get to do so in the tourist limo golf cart tonight. Okay, if you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do not have any proclamations tonight. I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. Do I have questions, comments, or a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Sage. I'll motion to approve.
And we have a second.
Kim, second.
Did you?
Kim's, yeah, I did. I was trying to remember
okay.
how to turn our
Kim's-
microphones on.
Okay, we have a second, a motion and a second. We do have one person signed up to speak under the consent agenda item, and that person is Patrick Gilbert. And Mr. Gilbert, while you're making your way forward, I'll just remind speakers that you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and I have no idea who's keeping time. Who's keeping time? Maggie is keeping the timer, so thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, staff. My name is Patrick Gilbert. I am the chair of the Urban Forestry Commission. On behalf of the commission, I want to thank, I hope, and urge you to approve staff's recommendation in awarding the consulting contract for Urban Forest Master Plan to Urban Canopy Works, LLC, to help us begin the process of building our urban forest master plan. I want to take the opportunity to express my gratitude and give credit to Keith Aiken, the urban forester, for doing all the heavy lifting on putting together the urban forest master plan and conducting a very rigorous applicant review process. I also want to thank the members of the Urban Forestry Commission Urban Forest Master Plan Working Group for their input and for working collaboratively with the urban forester on this project. And finally, to the members of the Urban Forest Commission for unanimously approving a resolution calling for the approval of this consultant contract. As many of you who have been up there for a while know, the Urban Forestry Commission has been worked diligently for more than 7 years to get funding for an urban forester and an urban forest master plan, enduring some setbacks and disappointments along the way. But in the awarding of this contract, we'll finally begin the process of putting together an urban forest master plan with the end result of enhancing the climate and neighborhood resilience and improving the quality of life for all citizens in the city of Asheville. I want to point out that I think that the most important part of this process will be the public engagement component, which I hope will be very robust and very comprehensive. I and the members of the Urban Forest Commission feel strongly that when this master plan comes to you for approval, that this plan will not be just the consultant's plan, not just the Urban Forestry Commission's plan, but the plan for all citizens of Asheville.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. Okay, that's how the timer will go tonight for speakers.
If I might just let our council know that as the liaison to the Urban Forestry Commission, I heard a very enthusiastic recommendation, which I forwarded to the full council for the Urban Forestry Master Plan process. They were only presented with one of the three proposals during that recommendation process. It is a MWBE company that has been selected. And just thanks to the staff and the UFC members who've put in the time and energy to do the engagement and get us to this point in the process.
Thanks. It has been a long road in terms of getting an urban forester and then the urban forestry master plan. Just to note, this plan is funded out of this year's budget. This is not in the next year's budget, in case anyone had a question about that. So it just happens to be happening towards the end of the year. All right, council, we have a motion and a second. We don't have anyone else signed up to speak. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We have passed the consent agenda. Council, we don't have any presentations or reports. And the one public hearing concerning the Haw Creek proposed development, which is actually why we're meeting here, is not happening tonight. And I need a motion to continue this item until July 23rd.
This is Sage. I'll motion to continue until July 23rd.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we're done with the public hearing portion of our agenda. Under unfinished business, we're going to move into the Business Improvement District in downtown Asheville items. Let me just quickly say that the council had to have 2 votes on the Business Improvement District, which we did have 1 vote already. And so this will be the second vote tonight, which is item 2. Item 1 is something that has been added to this process, this resolution regarding the structure of a downtown business improvement district. And before I turn it over to Councilwoman Ullman to talk about it, let me just say, we will take public comment on item A1, the resolution. We will not take public comment on A2, which is the second bid vote. I did want to just say that this has been a process in moving this forward, and it began with an external groups, the Chamber and the Downtown Association, working with a task force that they appointed to bring this forward to the city as a request. Unfortunately, a member of the task force was targeted this last week, and their car was vandalized and their tires were slashed. And so the task force, which is a volunteer group, is obviously not feeling safe, and so will not be here tonight to speak on this item. But of course, they wanted me to convey that they would not be here, but of course support the project. So I just wanted to mention that. It's very unfortunate, and I think intimidation like that does deter people in our community from wanting to serve in voluntary positions, and that's unfortunate. With that, please let me turn this over to Councilwoman, where are you saying? Ullman, on item A1, the resolution regarding structure of a downtown business improvement district.
Yeah, and before I go into just a loose summary of the resolution that was published with our packet, I just want to echo, it's okay if we disagree. That's like part of this job. I hope that's part of being a citizen. I'm very concerned about our community where we've seen similar things, one targeting me last year, this one targeting a leader in our community. It's just too far. It's unnecessary. It causes intimidation and it's hurtful, and I understand that the type of decisions that get made at this dais impact people's lives as well. I get that, but it makes me really worried for our community, and I'm really excited to see everyone here because I know that this type of process is like what we've all signed up for with a collaborative democracy, and so I'm grateful for everyone here who's doing that. So with that said, this resolution is really an intent. The purpose of the resolution came from a place where what we are legally required to adopt is a boundary, like a map, and a tax increment. But there's so much more conversation happening around what should this look like for our community, and that's coming from a lot of different places. A lot of people are collaborating and saying, I'm concerned about what was written here. I think it should look like that. And so the purpose of the resolution, in addition to providing another space for public comment for us all to discuss and work through again, is to put out a guideline for, if this passes, what staff has council direction on of how to develop an RFP to work with a service provider in instituting this bid. And so the process of coming up with the resolution involved many different community members, many different councilwomen. And so it's really trying to update what some of the initial draft material looked like. And so some really key components of it, I won't read through it, but that the objectives around the business improvement district are to create a welcoming and inclusive downtown for businesses, residents, workers, and guests, to have, to complement existing city services. This isn't to take over our sanitation department. This is to just add more from a dedicated pool. It is to have a nimble body that can respond quickly. At the risk of making light of this, we know government cannot move that quickly, and sometimes we need nimble response to be able to support our thriving community, and then also to support our downtown economy, which fuels all of Western North Carolina. So that's really the intent and purpose of this body. And then something that I think is very important in this resolution, that has really been improved upon by the discourse we've had in the community the last several months around this, is what does public accountability look like? From the very beginning, this would be a no-starter for me if there was not very explicit and clear ties back to the people that you elected on this panel and how this thing is going to operate. And so in the public accountability, everything of the business improvement district will be open records and public records. So there'll be no closed door meetings, there'll be no closed door materials, everything will be available to the public. It's still doing public work. The steering committee that would guide this would be ultimately approved by this council. So there's detail in the resolution of kind of the steps of how that works, but at the end of the day, anyone serving on this committee would get the final stamp of approval from the people that we elect, this body of city council. And then also that the balance of who's on the steering committee, I was not very satisfied with the first proposal. It did not really reflect who is downtown. And so now there is parity between folks who are renting and who are owning downtown. And I think that's really important because our downtown is made up of lots of different types of folks. And then the last thing is that the budget is approved by council annually. So if this goes off the rails, which I do not think it will, but if something really gets out of step with what we say we want now and what the community is needing, this time every year, we're gonna have a conversation about it. Now I know, I'll just leave it at that. So those are what I think are some of the real highlights of how this conversation has improved based on the discourse in the public and with council discussing. And so with that, that's how I wanted to introduce it. I suppose I could go ahead and make a motion for the resolution. I will make a motion to adopt the resolution. Yeah, I don't know when we should
Oh,
comment
sorry,
or
I
what
got the
have
wrong
you.
one. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah,
if before you
that's
make
right.
the motion, there's some proposed additions?
Thank you. Yes, good process. So I'll withdraw that emotion to conclude my introduction and see if anyone has any other comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Omen. Looking specifically under a public accountability, item 1, subsection 1.1, the inclusion, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong thing. Pursuant to North Carolina law, no, I'm sorry. In addition, the selected service provider shall be contractually bound to comply with federal MWBE subcontracting requirements. I propose that be added to our papers.
I'm in support of that with Sage. I have a friendly addition too, once we discuss this item. Go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Okay. For one, I support that addition from Councilwoman Mosley. In the additional section of public accountability, item 1.4, the bid steering committee appointments. So I've talked at length in past meetings that I generally support a bid, but my concerns were who runs it and how they are appointed and how we hold them accountable. Several of the items that I've sought have been addressed, whether it's open meetings, captured minutes, more information on the budget. Part of why we're doing this process tonight actually is so that we can inform both ourselves and you all what it is we're thinking when we possibly agree to this bid, because much of the information will come via the request for proposals process. So one big item that's been outstanding for me is how the board members or steering committee members, whatever they will later be called, or how they are nominated and brought to us. And it was proposed that excuse me, it was proposed that a slate of nominations come to us from the body that is awarded the RFP. And I was uncomfortable with that. I wanted City Council to see all applications and to have more of an application process similar to how we do our boards and commissions. And so my friendly amendment would be under 1.4 to say, after providers submit alternative nominees, all committee applications will be made available to the City Council for review prior to its consideration of any recommended nominations. So that's to say that, yes, the awarded body may offer a slate, but this body would see all applications and be able to choose from them.
That doesn't seem to be necessarily what it says. It just says it may be reviewed by. It doesn't say approved by.
Well, we will have the onus will be on us to approve the board members. So in this case, the board steering committee may offer a slate, but we would see all of the applicants, including those in the reduced slate pool. But we would be able to, say, pull one from the proposed slate and put one in from the open application process. The language is troubling you?
Yes, because that's not what the language says.
I mean, it got to the point, I thought. Do you have a
There's
different-
also another statement in that clause that I think is important where it, in 1.4, it starts with the application, nomination, appointment process for membership of the bid steering committee will be subject to public records and open meetings laws. So as the process moves forward, it's not like the steering committee will have a list of 20 and there'll be mysteries and then they'll come with us with 7 and say, take it or leave it. Everything will be available. And so we will be able to see and know, okay, if the steering committee who's volunteering their time to get this kicked off and they recommend these 7, or 7's not the right number, I should know the number, but I forget, like 15. We would still hear that's their recommendation, but all of whoever applied, their application itself will be public and available. So if there are parts of the slate or the recommendation that don't suit us, and we say, okay, you recommended Sue, and I don't know if that's going to fit this year based on this, that, and the other, then we could say, let's look at the rest of the applicant pool. Is that reflecting the intent that you're talking about,
But
Sage?
that's also not what it says, because we have plenty of public records in our organizations that you have to apply for a open records request to get. They're not necessarily available. So if they are going to be published, is different than there'll be public records you have to ask for.
Kim, are you saying at boards and commissions meetings, you don't have all applications given to you by way of link? I mean, as
we
chair,
did, but
I've
that's
seen
like
it.
an assumption that, and it's a practice. Once again, we just had the urban forestry master plan where we didn't look at all the documents, but we have if someone does an open records request right now, it takes 6 months maybe to get it.
Well,
So
and
I
that's
just want
not
to make
what
sure
I'm
that
suggesting, okay.
we should maybe provide some clarity then.
Yeah, and maybe this language needs to be tweaked a little, but I think you all are understanding my intent. So if there are some other language or verbiage that maybe even Brad was able to pick up on something, but
Well, maybe we could
What
say
is your
that
intent?
applicants will be publicly available, applications will be
will be
publicly
publicly
available.
available, yes.
It is your intention to also have a right to overrule?
Yes, yes. So it's not necessarily, I think that it's fair for them to, whatever party is awarded the RFP, to recommend a slate. That doesn't bother me so much, but I don't want it to be all that we and the public are limited to in receiving. I would like for us to see all the applications and be able to choose board members if we don't agree with the slate.
Right, to get all that.
Sorry, we thought we dialed this in a little.
And the final sentence of 1.4 says, "To fill vacancies, the bid steering committee will submit nominations to city council, who may accept nominations or request alternate nominees," which I do think reflects what
It's
you're
the line.
communicating.
Actually, that's not what that says. It says may.
So where do you see May? It will be made available.
No, I'm gonna have to get involved in this.
Compiled by.
It reads, "To fill vacancies, the bid steering committee will subject nominations to the city council who may accept nominations."
Right, so we have the discretion. We
Yeah.
don't have to, we don't want it to say
This is an
shall.
This is the
We
amended
don't
version.
want it to say shall accept the recommendations. We want it to say may, because we
May,
want the
right.
discretion to reject.
Yes.
My
This is
my
amended.
understanding of this is that in some bids, the slate is put forward and the entire slate has to be voted up or down. The goal with this was not to have that process, but to be able to sort of have a line item veto, if you will. So if they, I don't know, if there's 10 people and we accept 8 of them, but veto 2 of them, we have that discretion to do that.
Sure. And I think the concern from the community that I'm hearing is accountability. So we're seeing their budget every year. We're aware of their strategic plan for several years. We're seeing their board appointments recommended, and we're either agreeing or appointing our own in an open process. I feel like that addresses a lot of the accountability concerns.
You just wanted to add, I think the discretion to accept or reject a bid, board recommendation, or bid task force in this case, you just wanted in addition for the council and the public to be provided with all the applications.
Aware of all applications
so-
and being able to choose from them.
Yeah, so then we're not saying, who else applied? You know,
Right. Yeah.
we know who else applied. So, you're frowning, or how are you feeling about, do you have it?
I believe I have that, but let me clarify, just so that the paperwork is correct. So the provision as it reads now, as you all see, the first line already makes all of those applications a public record. However, the intent of the additional language was to ensure that they would not be a document or set of documents to be requested, but they would have affirmatively been provided to the city council prior to you making your final decision. What I'm hearing is that you would like to expand that to the public at large, so that they would be provided to council and publicly available prior to council's final consideration.
Yeah, I think that was Ken's contribution, yeah.
I believe I have it, Mayor. Thank you.
So for those of you that were concerned that the language didn't address the open application process and ability to choose from them, does that meet y'all's concern? Okay. Well, that was my friendly amendment. Sorry if that was confusing.
Anybody else have a confusing friendly amendment?
Okay, so I'll make a motion with those 2 friendly amendments, which I should articulate now. One would be to ensure that the bid service provider follows all federal MWBE requirements, and that the bid steering committee appointments, all applications are publicly available.
That's a motion, do we have a second?
And then, wait, well, that didn't quite encompass the whole thing, right?
No, the rest of your stuff's in there.
Okay. Okay, so this
Yeah.
language is already in the draft that you're,
Yeah, we're looking at it
Okay.
here.
thank you.
So was that a second?
Sandra, I'll second.
Yes, all right, Sandra, okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anybody else have any questions or comments before we begin the public hearing on this item? No? Okay, all right, everybody, I'll call your names in the order you're signed up. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and Maggie will use her phone to keep the time of 3 minutes. So, sorry, you don't really get a countdown. The first person signed up to speak under this item is Baron Northrup.
Thank you. The resolution of the proposed bid bears concerning resemblance to the rest of Asheville's systemic problems, a thin external veneer of welcoming liberalism belying a profit over people mindset without concrete answers to any of its own problems. These concerns have been raised by a vastly diverse array of people speaking out against the bid and the resolution, including but not limited to one of the original authors of Asheville's first failed bid, all of whom have provided specific examples of the dangers inherent here. For example, the bid proposal relies on the same, quote, Municipal Service District Act that the racist and destructive urban renewal did in the 70s. I'd like to use a few moments of my time for us all to meditate on the full range of implications of resurrecting urban renewal. Surely you, of all people here, see how the evils of redlining and wealth-first policy continue to haunt our city in real, tangible ways. Why does this resolution not specifically address that? Instead, it offers empty reassurances for a safer community, but a strategy of ramming a mostly blank check through and figuring out specifics later is anything but safe. Additionally, this resolution still does not address concerns about privatization of public services. And speaking of public services, I would be remiss if at this point I failed to mention that this resolution is a disgusting insult to the Asheville Fire Department. Where in this resolution, this so-called support for downtown, are we valuing our own firefighters' lives and living wages? I'd like to close by pointing out that as all these unanswered problems with this resolution compound, we must at some point stop and recognize that the reason this resolution is wrong for the bid is because the bid is wrong for Asheville. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person signed up to speak is Keith Wolf.
Hey there. I'm probably not going to be as eloquent as the first speaker, but I didn't know this was going on today, and I'm just going to drop this real quick. Like the first time I came in here, I talked about bids that I saw around the country, and I'm really concerned about using funds to hire people to ride around on bikes and harass people. Like I mentioned before, I've seen actual gang signs thrown by other cities' bids and claim to be in that gang. And I would just want to talk about that money should be going to the firefighters and not to some person that is just making minimum wage. I want to once again bring up Officer Bailey, badge number 4020, who had me trespassed unconstitutionally from the park through the park rangers. And now he's always taunting me to go into the park so he can arrest me. If the egos on the trained forces of the police are that petty, what are these kids on these bikes going to be like? And how are they going to handle the people and the problems that people on the street are there? Like, you know, I see one of these guys dancing to the band outside. How long is it before the band's not allowed to play outside because the hotels don't want us there? I mean, as an artist that's been around, Asheville for 25 years has always been known in my community around the country as a beautiful place for artists to come. And why are we letting the hotels push that out? And that's all I really got. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, we do have a rule against clapping and snapping. I'm sorry, but I mentioned the rules there regarding our meeting protocol. I know it's not popular. The next person signed up to speak is Jen Hampton.
Hello, y'all. I also am not as eloquent as Barron was. That was pretty hard to follow. But I just want to speak a little bit about the structure of this bid proposal. I also think that, well, let me just start by saying it says that it will enhance the vitality of local businesses. But what I've seen in other bids around my limited travels is that's not the case. And from what I've read and researched is a lot of these bids end up causing local businesses to have to go out of business. And I'm just like all over the place here because I'm kind of, frantic about this. And I'm really concerned about the transparency and accountability of it. I know y'all were just discussing it, and I greatly appreciate the thoughtful conversation you're having around it. But I really think that if y'all pass this, which I hope you don't, that there will be that really true intentional accountability and representation of the people who will be most affected by this bid on the bid steering committee. We need to have more workers and renters and people who, like I said, will be impacted by this bid. And something that I read in this proposal said that they will, the bid objective will be to be intentional about creating a downtown that is welcoming and inclusive to all. But I really don't think that will be the case because, like we've seen in that vague language that I keep thinking back to, is how the directive for the safety ambassadors or hospitality ambassadors will be to look for things, quote, out of the ordinary. That's kind of Asheville, you know? Like, we are out of the ordinary. We're a town full of creative weirdos, and I hope that we can keep it that way. I would hate for the bid to ruin Asheville like that. And one last thing I want to say is that if we are so willing to impose a tax on downtown to provide this bid, I agree with the gentleman that just spoke before me and Barron as well, that that money could go to the first responders, the firefighters who deserve to make a living wage. And that's plenty of money to provide that to them. So I know that was kind of all over the place, and I appreciate y'all listening, and thank you.
Thank you. Gabriella Von Figelo? I'm sorry if I didn't say that.
You're good. It's Bonfilia. Hi, again, nice to see y'all. Thanks for having us. So I'm going to be vulnerable for a second and share that I haven't been in Asheville that long. I moved here 2.5 years ago with a lot of hope. I had heard all the way from up north news of the reparations resolution, the queer community, and the robust mutual aid organizing. I felt that Asheville was a place where people really cared about each other. By voting yes on the bid last month, City Council has shown me that I was wrong. Much like other cities, it turns out this is actually a place where working class and Black and brown communities have to fight tooth and nail just to be catered to half as much as the tourists are. By steamrolling ahead on the bid, despite so much of this public outrage, this City Council has shown me that you don't actually care what your constituents have to say. I want this audience and the public record to note that the bid is proposed, like Barron said, under the Municipal Service District Act, GS Chapter 160A, Article 23, which is the same act that decimated Asheville's Black communities in the 70s through so-called urban renewal. By passing the bid, City Council, you continue to cause the harm that you allegedly want to stop with the Reparations Commission work. It just doesn't add up to me. I want us to note that this is a fork in the road for Asheville's history, and City Council is choosing the path of ongoing harm. If the bid passes, $200,000 of public tax money will go to the Chamber of Commerce to reimburse them for a study that no one asked them to conduct. Would love to object to that in the plan. I want the Chamber, I am a business leader as well, and I just want to say that I continue to think that us business leaders don't actually have the answers. So by putting business leaders in charge of downtown, we are presuming that we have the solutions to the most complex public issues of our time. We need solutions presented, designed, and led by the people most affected by them. We need harm reduction, not gentrification. The bid is gentrification. My last unrehearsed comment is that on this resolution, number 2, whereas a business improvement district is a proven mechanism to improve and enhance the overall quality of life and et cetera, that's false. It's not. We have so many studies that show the harm done by bids all over the country. I maybe thought we'd shared them with y'all, but we can send them again. There's just so much evidence of the harm that these have caused in real time. Thank you.
Z. Blanton?
Hello, my name is Z. I'm a local organizer and lifelong Western North Carolina resident who's loved Asheville for as long as I can remember. My objections to the structure of this bid are the disregards for the wants of the public, the ambiguity of it, and well-founded skepticism against its claims. 1.4 in the resolution emphasizes public input, but I find that hard to believe considering the obvious exclusion of public input up to this point, aside from what was legally required and strong-armed by us. I've gone canvassing downtown several times regarding this bid. Alarmingly, at least 80% of the people I spoke with, including business owners and management, had no idea what the bid even was. Out of everyone I spoke with, not one person was in favor of the fundamental components this resolution doesn't address, such as raising taxes. Why did it fall on me, my friends, and other grassroots organizers to inform our community about this? Why did it fall on Sunshine Labs to let everybody know that we're legally entitled to a public comment tonight? Nimble seems to be a favorite word throughout this process. As someone who cares deeply about this community, I'm appalled at this vote now, fill in the blanks later approach. The resolution claims that these services cannot legally replace public ones. Why do we need these privatized supplements when there are vacancies in city staff caused by a lack of a living wage? You claim to want a collaborative democracy, but as we've been shown, our time and needs as a community aren't respected. My biggest objection to the structure is that I don't believe that any of these reforms, what had been added, were not for the well-deserved public backlash. It isn't reasonable to demand respect from us when processes lack transparency. Respect is earned, and attempting to move large-scale changes past us and attempting to throw together a non-committal, people-pleasing resolution doesn't cut it. A cobbling together of a resolution that seems to just be a reluctant concession to the overwhelming negative reception of the public. I reject the structure as a whole, and I know that many in the community do as well. So, to the one city council member who's actually listening and has been listening this entire time, thank you.
Madison Jane?
What up, council? Here for the third time to ask y'all to just shut down this bid, y'all. Like, our community has shown such beautiful outpour about how harmful this is, and I don't know what more we can tell you or how much more like gaslighting we can take as we try to speak to people that are proponents of this bid or on the steering committee with this whole idea of clean and safe. That is just a lot of more false promises that Asheville has seen. When I was moving here, and you know, I chose to live here for many reasons, but as an artist and a creative and somebody who cares deeply about my community, when I was moving here, somebody said that they believed in Asheville because they felt that like the work of the community went a lot further than in some like larger towns, and I believed that. And this whole experience is telling me that like they may have been wrong, because I don't feel like you guys are actually listening to us truly. Like we care deeply about our community, and that means every person in our community, not just what corporate rich white supremacy, capitalism, industrial, like imperialization, like none of that. Like we just want our community to thrive and like consider every single person. So this quote just like said something to me. Safety is often weaponized by the powerful and the privileged as the ultimate justification for oppressive practices. For example, the policing and profiling of racialized communities is often done in the name of safety, as is the criminalization of sex workers and HIV-positive individuals. Trans women and trans femmes are frequently publicly attacked and humiliated, as well as excluded from access to the basic necessities of social life, such as employment and housing, for the sake of safety. At its worst, safety has been used to justify mass murder and genocide. And so whenever a social movement moves towards centralizing and codifying safety as a value, one must ask, safety for whom? This bid does not include everyone in its resolutions. I feel like this resolution is very performative, like it's not getting to like our actual concerns of just taking care of the community. Our firefighters are here on their free time every one of these meetings, and they work so hard, they risk their lives, and they're not even getting basic living wages. And it's not even about living wages, they should be thriving in their wages. They shouldn't just be like getting by. Nobody should just be getting by as we put our taxes into corporations.
Thank you.
Council, I need to interrupt real quick.
Yeah,
Just-
we're having trouble with the, this is on YouTube. Yeah, that's yeah, so tonight we don't have the TV channel 193, which apparently at least Maggie's husband uses, but we have, but we are streaming on YouTube, but Maggie, there's reports that it's,
that it's
the sound
cycling
is
5 seconds
overlapping.
after the sound starts, it starts again, so people are being duplicative.
They're working on it.
Okay.
Do we need to take a break and, or should we keep going? They think it'll be short?
It's on YouTube, okay?
So those that are,
So what,
It said
that is our live stream.
the original meeting link got burnt, and so they had to make a new one. But there's
it's specific to a live stream mic. It's being double projected. It's just the public mic, not city council's mic.
Oh, okay, so it's,
So perhaps we have a mic issue at the,
let's,
it says there's two voices staggered on top of each other and you can't follow along.
sometimes it seems like the mic's not on too.
Could we try another microphone?
Okay, hold on, everybody, just a
And I'll note, I feel like this is the third meeting I've been in where we've had issues with the vendor who provides that. Is there something bigger that we need to figure out with them?
I'm hearing that people can hear fine on YouTube. Maybe the person who is is talking to you is having a single problem, like to their,
She's having to read the captions only.
I've got multiple people saying they can hear the stream. It might be, ask the person maybe to reset their device.
okay, all right. Hey, Maggie, we think we're good. She's gone behind the curtain. Here she is. She's back in front of the curtain.
there's no issue.
Yeah, no, we think it's now whoever's communicating with Sage.
Thanks for looking into it.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, the next speaker is Jonathan Wainscott.
My name is Jonathan Wainscott, and I'm really kind of confused about what is happening right now. There's this, supposed to talk about the structure of the bid. I'm not really sure what that is. I was looking at the agenda briefing meeting, and there was a clarification that the taxes do apply to the residents there, and it had to be recalculated as such. Am I following that? And it seemed like this wasn't really worked out. It seemed like a kind of a big clarification. A friend of mine asked me who pays this tax, and I thought, I guess everybody, and I guessed right because it is, but it wasn't calculated that way in the first place. That seems a little bit sloppy, This all seems like a work session, and I'm getting the feeling that this is something that we're launching and going to build along the way. And I don't know what other cities you've actually compared us to. I don't know if the cities with bids also have a tourism development authority with a stack of money to the moon. This is going to be a really, really transparent agency. You're all supposed to be, So if this is going to be extra special, like above board, it just kind of tells us that all the other stuff is not above board, and which would be hard to imagine. And so is there a way to pause this? Kick it down the road a little bit? It just seems unthought out. This transparent agency is going to enable the quasi-governmental agency that is out of touch from everybody in the community that it impacts powerfully. That's my concern, over policing. I mean, if we don't have enough money for trash cans getting emptied. We have too much money to spend on advertising. They can't get rid of it fast enough. You can spend too much money on advertising. That's a thing you can do. It's not something you want to do. It's really a bad thing for business, So that's what's going on in the community, and it just seems ridiculous that we have all of this money flowing in, and we don't seem to be able to use it appropriately or, in that structure. It's here, it just doesn't get spent in the right ways. It goes overspent, underspent, wasted, and it's a shame because the whole city should really be immaculate. I'm really happy for downtown that's going to get cleaned up. I'm certainly bummed out that the firefighters have to continue to fight for what they deserve. We should have it all. We really should. I mean, this puts the people downtown in a tax district of the bid, Asheville City, Asheville School, and Buncombe County, man. That's, that doesn't make anything downtown affordable. It's going to translate to any landlord that gets a tax increase. It's tripled, Anyway, thanks a lot.
Nina Tovish.
Good evening, council members. I'd like to talk a little bit about the word nimble. Yes, elected government run by representatives who are accountable to the public can be unwieldy. There's no question about that. Things often move slower than people want. Election cycles can be ungainly. There's the saying that says democratic government is the worst government of all, except for all the others. What you're creating with an entity that you're hiring out, essentially, for these functions, is an entity that you're only going to be overseeing for the way it says it's going to spend its income, and then annually you're going to review it. Everything that happens in between will not have the same level of scrutiny, will not have the same level of public oversight, and therefore will not have the same degree of accountability that you all face every day of your service to our city. I would be so much more comfortable with this if it was another board and commission that had a budget, that was part of the budgeting cycle. Why aren't we doing this in-house? Why are we shopping this out to yet another entity that will, by the way, make a profit, like the board will as well, the Chamber of Commerce? I think we're shifting responsibility, buying a nimbleness that may or may not serve everybody who spends time downtown. And we're layering on another layer of tax, which people haven't really reckoned with the fact that there's going to be a reassessment next year. Their taxes will go up. The tax rate in general will probably also go up. And on top of that, they're going to have the tax for this bid. There's going to be some serious sticker shock next time around. What are we buying with this money? And who gets to say how it's administered day by day, week by week? Why are we doing this at arm's length? Why isn't this part of basic public city service? And if the business community wants something different, why aren't they getting together, putting together an association and doing it themselves? Thank you for your attention.
Claire Hanrahan.
How y'all? Every one of y'all. I've been around town in this town, probably 30 years, and I've been across the street at the Battery Park about 8. No, actually 13. And for the last 8, I've been managing as a volunteer the Elder and Sage Community Gardens. I hope many of you will come through. It's really a lovely space on a city lot. I see a lot of the goings and comings in downtown while making this otherwise vacant lot welcoming and nurturing and safe to many. We've all heard the phrase nimble fingers. Seems an apt description for this unelected private group, a bid board collecting taxes to privatize management of public spaces, the common spaces, so essential to democracy. And democracy now, in this age of unbridled militarism and escalating climate crisis, sometimes needs to be out in the streets loud and boisterous in order to be heard. The vagueness of this authorization, the further privileging and empowering of the wealthy with token, if any, participation of the workers, the unhoused, the non-consumers, the privatizing of services that are rightly the obligation of government, I remain concerned. And I also must ask, why are we shopping this out, as Nina Tovish has said? Why? Thank you.
Rachel Stark.
Hi, Council. Okay, so I'm going to address the resolution that was put forth. It's very concerning. It starts by saying, well, it doesn't, one of the first, whereas the Business Improvement District is a proven mechanism of improvement for businesses and quality of life. As has been said, that is just flatly untrue. There are a lot of studies. Actually, there's a lack of studies. It's really hard to show that it is a positive, and there are statistics that it is a negative. Now, I looked up some things. I'm going to do my best to get through, but in one of them, so first of all, it's hard to get these studies. There was a series of studies as far as an increase in property value, which is one of the positives that's touted as a bid improvement. There's a series of studies from the Furman Center, and most of these studies that say there was an improvement in property value, it was done specifically in a dense sample, a small sample on the island of Manhattan that's densely office businesses and office buildings. And that's one of the studies that will show this as a positive thing. But there was another report that was authorized by Stacy Sutton that examined bids in New York, some with the bids, and they matched with comparable areas without bids. I'm sorry, I work downtown, I'm an artist. My studio is also in the bid. I walked over here, I'm wearing denim. I'm not a blazer wearing person who's advocating for this bid, so thanks for letting me move through my scribbles and get the research that I'm trying to get, because it's been really frustrating that for months what's been happening is kind of like this behind the scenes, the people who have the most money and are really saying, like, blazer wearing, like, yes, we want it. Y'all have had time, and Chamber of Commerce wants to reimburse themselves for